what's going on, Playbill Nation? This is Joe Rosko. Wow, OMG. This is Joe Rosko from Built for the Stage. My friend Roberto from Playbill just surprised me with that amazing new intro. Had no idea that was coming. Yes, intro. Love it. So once again, I'm Joe Rosko from Built for the Stage, Broadway's #1 fitness platform. If you're interested in training like the actor-athlete that you are, you can go to builtforthestage.com to try a free trial. Today, we have a special Motivation Monday for you. We have a whole huge hashtag squad group of our Broadway community. Please welcome to the show, Nadia Brown, Dana Steingold, Gabe Hyman, Jerusha Cavazos, Will Mann, Jen Noble, and Mo Brady. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
I am so excited. I have the chills. I'm so excited just to be amongst community, to be amongst all of you. And for those of you that are watching, I can't wait for you to share some moments with our friends from the Broadway community about how they're staying motivated and just what they've been kind of experiencing this past week in particular, and just in the pandemic in general. So first, we're going to bring on Gabe Hyman. Gabe's actually a Built for the Stage fam. We've been working together for a good while now. He's such good people, always brings a smile to my face anytime we get to interact. So Gabe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So with this being Motivation Monday, just jumping right into it, the pandemic obviously has been tough times for us all. What are some challenges that you've run across, and how have you approached those challenges? How have you continued to work and move forward during these tough times?
Loaded question. One of I think the toughest things that I encountered throughout the entire pandemic in terms of the industry was how to disassociate myself and not allow my work to define my worth. I've been trying to discover who I am beyond those 8 shows a week. But I think the pause helped me answer a lot of those questions that I've had, and not defining and not letting it define me, and working on myself mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I've been trying to stay motivated by staying creative. I've been trying to continue to work on my craft, taking class when I can, teaching.
What are some creative things that you've kind of dove into during this pandemic that's different from the stage or being on it?
A lot of my friends have been doing really cool passion projects. So I've always, kind of wanted to transition into more, behind the camera. And that's been really cool that I've been able to do that. My friends are incredible choreographers, or new choreographers that have wanted to do these new projects. So that's been keeping me really creative and being a vessel to them and those projects. It's been cool.
So if we were going to do a TED Talk, I think your topic that would go up onto the projector would be not allowing your work to define your worth. So I love that message for everyone watching out there. So hopefully you all will take that in. You are currently, or however currently you can make this, you are in the cast of Hamilton on tour. You're on a little bit of a standby. With Hamilton being such obviously a historic show and about the start of the country and so many, historical things about America. When you go back to do this show, how will it be? Will it be different for you now under a new future presidency of Biden-Harris? Will there be different messages that kind of shine through more for you? Does it change at all?
I think the idea that what doesn't change for me is that I've always entered the show and performed the show with the idea of telling America's story then with what America looks like today. And I still think that will obviously be true, being that we're a cast of color going back into the show. But I do think with, forward thinkers such as Biden and Harris, I think it means a little bit more, especially going to those conservative cities that we travel to, and having a leader that that outwardly supports you definitely helps. And like I said, being a cast of color makes me proud to know that when we go back that we belong. We've always belonged on that stage. and no one can take that away from us, but especially knowing that we have a president and a vice president that supports you wholeheartedly. It makes a difference, especially, when we're in those conservative cities, and having Trump in office, it kind of, it gave them fuel to say whatever they wanted to say about us off stage and coming to see the show. So I guess it changes being able to know that we're supported and we belong.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to move on to our next guest. We can't wait to get you back on that stage. All the love to you. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we're going to bring on Dana Steingold. You recently saw Dana in Beetlejuice. There she is. Hey, Dana.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing so well. Y'all are just making my day. Thanks for being on the show. Welcome to Motivation Monday.
Hey, welcome.
So we'll continue this first question with all of our guests today. What have you been doing to stay motivated during this pandemic? How have you continued to move forward in such a trying time?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, the biggest thing I've been dealing with is sort of a lack of closure, given that Beetlejuice was supposed to close June 6th, and we sort of left the theater like a time capsule. All of the stuff was in our dressing room, just how we left it, like everyone else. And then slowly, as the dates got pushed back, we sort of realized we probably weren't going back to work. So dealing with that and figuring out like how you close a chapter that was super beautiful in your life without actually getting to celebrate with the people that you built it with has been difficult. But I think I threw myself into, political action. And I think the best thing and what has motivated me to this time is watching my fellow colleagues and friends. The collective mobilization and engagement of everybody has been so beautiful. And I'm really hoping that the good that comes out of this is that we kind of had to hit rock bottom as an industry to sort of build ourselves back up and hopefully have a more equitable and just industry and also world. So that's sort of what's moving me forward, I think.
Yeah. Has there anything been that you've seen this past week given you in particular hope for the future for our industry? As a theater collective.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, obviously, as a woman, obviously seeing Kamala become our vice president is huge. And for so many little girls everywhere, I think watching those videos of my friends with their children was beautiful. And I think listening to our president, our president-elect, I should say, speak on so many different people who exist in our society and I feel like have been marginalized in some way, whether it's the gay community, the trans community, people with disabilities. Our president-elect thanked the Black community and promised to support them. I think that was so beautiful. And as someone who's not part of one of those marginalized communities, I can only imagine what it must be like to feel seen for the first time. And I feel like it's only planting the seed. We have so much work to do. We actually have to fulfill those promises and put action into them. But that is probably the most moving thing from the last week. I think everybody kind of sobbed, this like collective 4-year relief of tears. I think seeing that happen on Saturday. So yeah, pretty amazing.
Pivoting back to the craft of theater, I know from Beetlejuice, there's a wide spread of fans, but particularly you have a lot of young fans in the Broadway community that just love Beetlejuice. What's one little bit of advice you can give them during this time where it feels like maybe your hands are tied behind your back a bit? What's something that you could just give them to just help them move forward during this, to maybe chase after dreams of being an actor or actress someday?
Yeah. Well, I think what we've learned during this time is this has sort of been the great equalizer, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're performing in a church show, in your local high school, or on Broadway. We all feel this love of being on stage and sharing a story with an audience and having a collective experience. And we all sort of feel that loss together as a community of people who love art. So I think that's pretty amazing to know that we're all sort of in this together, if you will. And I think take this time to listen to cast albums, research people that you really respect and love, look at their resume, see what other roles they've played. It's such an amazing time to expand your book, expand your repertoire. Everything is sort of accessible on YouTube for free, which like in my day, we had to go to Barnes & Noble, like I'm dating myself here, but like actually purchase the cast album. So you can only listen to like a couple select things. And I would say also you have access to everyone right now on either like Artists and Beyond or Broadway Plus. Take classes. It's also the best way to support actors you really love. So just keep pushing yourself forward and keep learning. I think we're all trying to do that as well.
Love it. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Dana. Thank you.
Of course. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Okay, next we'll be bringing on Nadia Brown from Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Nadia. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The show is spectacular. A couple of our Built for the Stage clients, James Snyder and James Brown III, are in the show.
Love them both.
I know, such special people, right? I haven't relived this show until like you just came on the screen. I'm just thinking about how entertained I was for 6 hours, and I couldn't believe it.
Literally 5.5 hour long 2-part show. Talk about stamina.
Yeah. So keeping stamina or keeping yourself moving forward, like we've been asking our other guests, what have you been doing during the pandemic to just keep yourself encouraged, keep yourself motivated to just better yourself in any way that you can, whether it's within the craft or not?
Totally. I would agree with Dana that over this pandemic, I think my priorities shifted, right? Because the whole thing was we need to stay home, wear masks to benefit others, and I became such a more responsible human being. Like I became an activist in certain ways, fighting for the fact that I'm a Black woman who cares about the LGBTQ plus community, and I care about the Black community, I care about women, and so many different things, right? And I became a more responsible human, which made me actually dive into my career in a more responsible fashion. It's weird how that relates, but when you become a better person, you become a better actor. And so I was like, I have time to take classes. I have time to work on voiceover. I have time to do all of these things and also care about my community. And how can I text bank to make people vote, to inspire people to vote and do things in different communities and just inspire action in all ways. So that's been my MO for this quarantine. I'm like, let's all get it done,
All right. I love that. Our next TED Talk point that we're going to put up on the projector is to be a better actor, you have to be better people. And that's actually, we say it all the time, actors are athletes. And that's a very like athletic thing that I hear too, is like, hey, if you want to be a good athlete, you have to be a good person. And that's the same with actors as well. Just the vast amount of experience and depth that you can grow as a person, you obviously will be able to bring that to the stage. So I love that.
Every character you play. Exactly. Yeah.
As a woman of color, what does it mean to you with Kamala Harris being the next vice president elect of the United States?
I just got chills hearing you say that. Honestly, I think about that a lot, especially throughout the campaign. And then especially from Saturday to now and beyond, I think about the past and the future. I think about, she mentioned in her speech that she's standing on so many women's shoulders. And we see Stacey Abrams, right, is one example of how Black women especially have shouldered a lot of the Democratic issues and all of democracy, right? And kind of, this country is kind of built on what Black people and Black women have done so much, So I think about the past, but then I also think about the future of what's possible for us. There's a Black woman like me at the highest position right now. Like there's never been a Black woman that high up in the White House, So I'm just inspired. And I'm planning my audition for when I can play her in her biopic in maybe like 30 years. She's just such a brilliant, beautiful woman. And the fact that she's a woman of color, the fact that she's determined and smart and brilliant, like she will get the job done. So I'm just so inspired by her.
I love that. So for you, it's kind of like she's kind of taking the ceiling off for you because she has reached such a high platform.
Shattered the glass ceiling. Absolutely.
What would you say to younger women of color out there about what has just transpired and how they, because how did she get there though? Like what are some qualities that you could just kind of maybe inspire those watching that could heighten you to that level? You know, wishes are wishes. Goals are actually things that you can put into action. So, you know, what are some things that you would encourage people to put into action?
I think I would say specifically for young women of color, young girls in general, young children, the youth, right? That you first have to start with just believing in yourself. It sounds so cliche and so like trite, but it's real. Kamala believed in herself from day one, and then just put small goals into action every single day, and never think that you can't achieve. You can talk about like, I want to be the president of the United States. You literally can. You just have to follow small steps, believe in yourself every step of the way, and just trust that there is no ceiling. You know, if you kind of believe the thing of like, you can't do, no one else has done that, you can't be the first, then you have to just believe that you can do it.
Yeah, we're huge on cliches here. We love cliches because the thing
right?
The thing about it is that people want to dismiss them because they're so common, but the actuality is that they're common because they're the most true thing out there. Just to add on to that, also though, just kind of the other side of the fence on that is that you have to make sure that you don't just like the idea of something, but you're willing to put in the work to actually achieve what it takes. And for Kamala, I'm sure she went through many barriers and fences and hills and valleys to get to where she's at. So
right, she worked 3 times as hard probably to get where she's at. Absolutely.
Sure. Nadia, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you virtually. All right, next we're going to bring onto the show Will Mann from the cast of Oklahoma on Broadway. Will is also BFTS fam, and he'll be popping on in just a sec. Here he is. Hey, Will.
Hi.
Good morning. Happy Monday. How are you?
Here, we're doing it. It's a thing.
It's a thing. Same question to start with everyone else. How have you been just kind of going with this wave of the pandemic and trying to stay motivated in any way that you can to just continue to better yourself or just make the most of this time?
First off, I want to say how inspiring I think all of your panelists today, and Gabe and Nadia, like hit on a bunch of things that I was like, yes, sis, that's what I'm talking about. As far as the career is concerned, I've shifted, and I think shifting and broadening and being as flexible as possible is a really good move. I bought a bunch of voiceover equipment and I transformed my closet into a booth, and I've been very busy auditioning and some bookings voiceover wise. And I think having another avenue that you can focus on artistically that can be monetarily beneficial is kind of like, okay, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, you're not just kind of like forced onto the stage. There's other things. I'm curious, what kind of voiceover things have you done? Just kind of straightforward, or have you done any like cartoon stuff? Like what kind of voiceovers have you done?
The things I book are more kind of boring commercial things. The things I enjoy auditioning for are like video games and like super dark or like characters that are very witty and like sharp. I like that kind of stuff.
Love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Video games mostly are the fun ones.
Being a part of the cast of Oklahoma, when you were performing it 8 times a week, you would sing a song, "The Farmer and the Cowman Should Be Friends."
Mm-hmm.
With the heightened kind of tension going on right now, how can we as a country kind of emulate that song? How can we be different but still be together?
I have several thoughts about this. I think what was interesting, and I think a big reason why Biden won the election, and why a lot of progressives might have been very upset with him, are that his message, his core is decency, right? That's how he won, I think, because he's a person of decency and of genuineness, and his genuine desire is to bring people together. Is to listen to each other and he said these things in his speech. We need to grow together and listen and stop hating each other. And I think umbrella wise, that's a wonderful idea. And I think it should be the way forward. However, I do think that there are things we can disagree on and still be friends. If you like orange juice and I like apple juice, it's okay. But if you don't see me as a Black gay man as having any worth or value as a human, that's something you can't overlook, right? And I think, and the same goes to the other side, if I see you as a dumb, uneducated hick who will never be nothing, then like, it's hard to get past those things. So I do believe in the umbrella of, and I'm often looking for people who have different political views so I can understand better why it is you feel that way, so that you can understand the way I feel. I have a couple Republican friends that I really can count on to have grown-up conversations, but there are some people who don't believe in the value of my life, and that is there's no bridge there.
I love that. Human first, and then also having those grown-up conversations. Yeah, very important. Will, thanks so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yay.
Black Boy Joy, love that shirt. All right, next on the show, we're going to bring on Jerusha Cavazos from recently the Prom, and she's always lovely to be around. We've worked together a few times. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's just jump right into it. Happy Monday. How have you stayed motivated during this pandemic? How have you either continued to grow as a artist or just a person? I want to tell us about the song. Let's just get into that. Forget it.
To be honest, I've been living in a season of truth this year. I feel like as a performer, being busy, it's so easy with all of our friends in the midst to just be like, I'm good. Like, oh my God, everything's great. We ignore like injuries, like sadness, even we ignore like joy. And I've just been like sitting in my feelings, really sitting in it and like announcing them to the world. And I think within sitting in it, I was able to write. And I remember I've been writing since I was 10, but I've never had the courage to do anything with it. And I remember in 2018, I was doing the lab of Prom, and Josh Lehman was announcing to the cast that he was having a show that he was working on, produced at Groom 42. And I was like, I nudged him and I was like, hey, like, how did you do that? Like, you wrote something and someone's like producing it? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm not trying to be weird, but like, what's the first step? And he like pulled me aside and like held my hands and looked me in the eye and was like, just keep writing. And I was like, okay. And that's all he said. He just like, just keep writing. And it really like changed me because I just kept doing it. And now I find myself here writing music and kind of taking that part of my career to the next level. And when I kept writing, the producer started coming into my world, and I started meeting people who were interested in helping me bring my dream to life. And that is what happened. So now I'm just writing music, and now I want to write musicals and all the things.
I love that. I'm smiling from ear to ear, just knowing that there's someone out there listening that like needed to hear that. So thanks so much for sharing that, for sure.
Thank you. No, yeah. It's crazy when it's something that's so simple and you're just like, oh, I just have to like keep doing the thing that I love. And like I'm reading this Malcolm Gladwell book about applying 10,000 hours to anything that you're passionate about. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing my 10,000 hours. So of course it's going to come to fruition. Of course I'm going to bring abundance to it. And that's amazing.
I'd like to ask you as well, as a young woman of color, what does it mean to you that Kamala Harris is now the vice president-elect of the United States?
It means everything to me because so many reasons. I feel like I was talking to a friend and I was like, oh my God, there's a Black woman in the White House. And she was like, no, there's an Asian Indian woman in the White House. And I was like, there's both. Like I was like, wow, representation is that important that the first thing I saw when I looked at her was a Black woman. And the first thing that my Indian American friend saw when she looked at her was an Indian woman. And I was like, we really need to see people that look like us. But what's more important for me is the fact that she comes from parents that are immigrants. I'm first generation American, and I've watched my mother, who's not from this country, build herself in this country. And she practices and works in the pro bono area of like fair housing, immigration, and civil and domestic violence law. And I've watched her just through my eyes fight for people in our country. And on levels that seem so small, but in our family so big, but now to watch it be elevated to the White House is like something that so many other children like me need to see, that the American dream is real for immigrants, that we can live this dream out and make change on every level. And I think it really kind of solidified. It's one thing, it was so important for me to watch my mom as a child, but then to see that then elevated to that level kind of confirmed for me, we're all now going to be under this collective consciousness that women of color, people of color can do the impossible, and there's no limits to our dreams. And that is just everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Jerusha, love it. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Have a great week.
Bye.
All right, next on the show, we're going to be bringing on Jennifer Noble. Jennifer's an old-time friend of mine, such good people. I think she's calling in from Cincinnati today. I'm not sure. Hey, Jen.
What's up? Yep, Cincinnati in the house.
OH, what's up? You've recently seen Jen in King Kong. She was also doing some workshops before things just got a little crazy. So things were on the rise, but we're on hold. They're going to come right back, but we're just on a little pause. Jen, what's something during this pandemic that has maybe come at you as some type of hurdle to leap over? How have you taken on that hurdle? Give us something just to thrive on as people that need any bit of motivation that we can get at these times.
Yeah. I have to be totally honest. There was a good chunk of the summer I was not motivated. I was just not. I was in Ohio. I'm living my life, and I took a pause from the industry. As Gabe mentioned earlier, I was trying to find ways to find my self-worth again outside of the industry. And I would just go on a lot of walks, be outside, hang out with my family, and just kind of be. And recently I found my way back, I think, to like getting motivated again. And I think that really started with volunteering for the Biden campaign. And I started working with this nonprofit called Feel Good Voting, and they work with influencers to inspire their audience and encourage their audience to vote and register to vote. And that was like a beautiful, eye-opening experience. I worked with so many great people remotely who I've still never met in person from all over the country. And it just, that really inspired me to kind of get myself together and get out there. And I think, I can't remember who said this earlier, but priorities shifted absolutely for everyone in the industry. And just finding ways to make a positive impact in any way we can was definitely a motivating factor for me this summer.
Yeah. With, so you said you kind of gotten involved with the Biden campaign. When he was making his speech as president-elect, he was addressing everyone, saying that it wasn't about right or left or blue and red, but it was about us as Americans. How, in your opinion, can we move forward to kind of bring that message to fruition that we all are Americans?
That is a really layered question, because we have to do it, right? We have no choice. That is the only way we're going to be able to move forward in our democracy. But man, it can be really difficult. As Will mentioned earlier, there's a difference between political opinion, and then there's a difference between morality. And, I do think for the most part, people are good. And I do think that if given a chance, we can have these difficult conversations. And I might add, it is on the white people to really do our work, because 55% of white women voted for him again, 58% of white men voted for him. So we need to be talking to our family members and just trying to figure out what is it here? What is the disconnect? And I really do think at the end of the day, though, that most people are good and most people want to collaborate and communicate and work together. So I think it is possible, but for those other people that, are not wanting to do the work, I think we might have to just kind of say good day to you and then going.
I love that. Most people are good. And I think that's important to keep into perspective when you have a country as large as ours, when you're seeing, even like 1,000 or 1,000, it's obviously 1,000 too many, but at the same time, if we can kind of keep it in perspective of how that percentage works amongst our entire country, that we can keep that hope that most people are good. Jen, thanks so much for being on the show. I want to encourage you to keep at it with your TikToks and Instagram reels. You have a knack for it. There's people that put out stuff and they're like, oh, that's cute, whatever. I'm telling you, you got something there. Keep it going.
Thanks, bud. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, Jen. All right. Our last guest on our show today will be Mo Brady from The Ensemblist. Mo. Hey, Mo.
Hey.
Mo Brady from The Ensemblist does a great job. He's having a dance party over there.
Yeah.
He does a great job. The Ensemblist does a great job of just keeping the current pulse on the theater community. And that's something that I really love about his work at The Ensemblist. Jumping right into it, Mo, as we conclude our episode today, I just want to ask, Biden has been talking a lot about how it's a time for healing. He's been kind of hitting that over and over again. The theater community specifically, how do you think in an actionable way we can begin that healing?
It's a great question. I kind of want to jump off what Jen said and a lot of other people said. I think that our community is on pause right now in a lot of ways in terms of the work that we can do. But continuing to demand for that racial equity, I think, is something we can be doing at this time in order to try to heal. People are motivated. They're feeling excited. They're feeling bolstered and empowered. And if we can continue to channel that excitement and the feeling of community that we've had in supporting the Biden-Harris campaign, if we can sort of go like one social movement back and continue the conversation about racial equity and giving opportunity, more seats at the table for people of color, I think that we are going to be in a much better place to heal when the industry does start to show signs of life again.
Got it. Yeah. So whether you're excited or not excited about what just transpired over the weekend, it's more so let's go back to the root of the issues or the foundation of, okay, what are the topics or what are the things that are on the chopping block that need to be addressed as soon as possible?
Right. That's the conversation that we were having back in June. In July, the end of May was like, let this moment of awareness of the inequalities in our country, but also in our business, not be a fad, not be something that we talk about now and then forget to talk about later. Well, now is a great time to jump back into that conversation and be having those hard conversations about how we can be providing more opportunities for people of color.
Thank you. Mo, thanks so much for joining us. Once again, this is Mo from The Ensemblist. He has a great podcast on the Broadway Podcast Network. You can check out The Ensemblist or their Instagram. Thanks, Mo. All right. Viewers, watchers, family, that's it. Motivation Monday. I hope you're feeling inspired. Our guests today were just the loveliest. No matter who you voted for, no matter what race, no matter what gender, no matter how you identify yourself as, we are humans first. And let that be the message. Let that be our motivating factor for this week, for the rest of the year and onwards. Love yourself, love others, stay motivated out there. We'll see you later. Hey.
Still here.